Hello, everybody. Welcome to the episode 45 of the Hrudai podcast. In this episode, we host Dr. Mahesh Sir, researcher, educator, and animal rights activist. He is the founder of Math Katha, a PhD in mathematics, and a Nature Journal published researcher with experience at cinemas, technology, and leading universities. This conversation explores learning beyond textbooks, the power of hard work, ethical education, and conscious responsibility toward life. A crisp, thought provoking episode where knowledge, values, and purpose come together. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands and welcome on the screen Mahesh Sir. Hello, sir.
Hi, Hrudai.
Hello, sir. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing great, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for being a part of this episode. I'm very, very grateful. Of course, happy to have you on my podcast.
No, the pleasure is mine for being here.
Thank you so much, sir. So, how was your childhood? And tell us a memory that you had in your childhood that you still remember.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, a lot of things comes to mind, but I think one of the valuable element of my childhood is, I think, spending time with my grandfather uh, back in the village, like 2 months of the year during my summer vacation. I used to uh, go to my village and spend my time there. I think what is the reason it's memorable is because I think life was very dynamic there when compared to the life that I had here, where going to school and classes, whatever be it, it was like kind of routine, mundane, and monotonous. Uh, but the element of dynamics, I think, was more there. And like I mentioned, spending time with my grandpa, who's been an inspirational figure for me. I think that is the most valuable thing that I remember or memorable thing.
Mm, amazing. So, when you were a child, did you have any thoughts of becoming an activist like this? Or
Okay.
was it your passion? What was your passion as a child?
No, that time I, of course, didn't have an idea because I think why most of us become an activist is because it's purpose driven,
Mm,
not passion driven actually. But for few, of course, it becomes a passion and they're passionate about it. But I don't know about myself. I don't think I'm like passionate about it. I think I see myself as, like it's just a duty as as a human, it's just duty to speak up for those who are oppressed by, our kind. So that's what I do essentially, and I see it as a more of a purpose driven rather than passion driven. And no, back then, of course, I had no idea that I would be an activist. I mean, childhood, I think, is a very long, long time ago. And I think even few years back, I didn't have the idea that I would be an activist. So childhood is like even far-fetched to think of it. So yeah, my passion was, I think, to always to be in the field of science, to become a scientist, and to be, yeah, to work on science, to understand the universe. I saw myself as I mean, not just myself, I think everyone. I always felt like, why do people even study other subjects, other topics? Like, understanding the world we live in is all that matters. But of course, that was then. Later, I understood that, we humans have built a world for ourselves, fortunately or unfortunately, and the governance of which requires expertise of other domain. And that is when I understood, the relevance of other topics. So, of course, I developed interest for other topics as well as and when I grew. But to the very question that you asked, as a child, what I was passionate about, yeah, it was just science and maybe a bit of cricket. But but yeah, of course, science was all that was back then.
yes. So, what's the difference between passion and purpose?
Yeah, I think okay, that's a very tricky question to answer or to articulate rather. Uh, it's it is dependent on, I think recently I was hearing a spokesperson speak about the difference between feeling and emotion. So feeling is something that's very intrinsic. You feel is something that's very raw, but emotion is always, it's like ego driven, or there's a story to your emotion, but there need not be a story to your feeling. It could just be a response, or how you just feel within. And sometimes it may not even require justification, or any kind of rationalization. You feel the way you feel, but the emotion is something that has a story to it. I think passion and purpose is something very similar, I feel. So passion is something, that comes, like, yeah, you spend some time doing it, you like it, and you want to do it, and you are willing to set aside other things, just to do this. So that, the willingness is something that you're fond of, or there is some kind of, there's a calling to do it. There is similarity to the purpose driven also, but purpose driven, I strongly feel, that yeah, it may not be something that you want to do. It's something that you feel you need to do. So the difference between the need and the want comes, and hence, for purpose, I feel, yeah, there's a story associated to it. What is your purpose? There is a story associated, and for me, it's the story of animals, whom we are victimized. So it's those stories that has got me to do what I'm doing right now. But whereas passion, like I said, yeah, it may not require anything. You spend time doing something and you fall in love with it and you just continue doing it. So that's, I think, passion driven. But purpose requires a story. And for me, it's the story of animals.
Amazing. Beautiful. Yeah. So now tell me the difference between real life education and just the education system where schools or
Mhm.
colleges teach.
Right. I think the real life education and yeah, the book education, of course, there's a stark difference. I think even within I don't want to restrict the school education just to the books per se, because I think the environment and the syllabus, the curriculum, everything goes into the school education, so to say. So, because I think, of course, what you pick up from book is, and then let's say what you produce in the exams is essentially to pick up certain skills, to pick up certain, element of knowledge, let's say. But what school essentially tries to teach is, I mean, this as an educator also I'm saying, is to inculcate discipline. And again, discipline doesn't necessarily mean, like, okay, you tying the shoelace, or combing your hair, and ironing your uniform. That's just one vertical of discipline. But discipline, what exactly means, as we grow up, we understand the meaning of discipline. Like, people now ask, like, what is your discipline of study, or what is your discipline? So so for me, essential discipline is, like, being, how do I say, like, whatever domain you are in, like, truly, like, trying to move up the ladder in that domain is to be disciplined. So, and I think that is what school tries to inculcate, you as in shaping you as a citizen, in shaping you as a person, in shaping you as an individual who can stand up on your own feet. Right. I think that is a lot to do with the school education now, especially now. Back then, at least, it was okay. You come into school. I mean, my days, I'm telling, because, like, as an educator, when I see the difference, this major difference I see. Back then, it was like, okay, you come into school and there are some activities you do, then you go home. Of course, there was some element of, how do you say, investment made to, one, like, gaining self confidence, but I think now a lot of emphasis is on that. So I think, of course, that is what I see majorly as school education. Apart from that, yeah, book knowledge, like I told, right, I don't know how to articulate. Like I told, right, it's essentially to upskill yourself in certain domain, be it language, social sciences, mathematics, or whatever it is. It is essentially to upskill yourself. But of course, the real world knowledge, yeah, that is something. I mean, the school education, of course, tries to capture the essence of the real world, but no, I think there is, it's very difficult to bridge the gap between what the real life teaches you and what the school tries to do that. Because I think the real world is quite lot dynamic. It's a way lot dynamic, and let's say you study economics, you study geography, you study science, and you study mathematics, and you study language.
Mm.
And all these are, you have different teachers, different subject, different exams. Your approach is different in learning. But in the real world, it's like integration of everything. Like, let's say my field, animal rights, when I speak about this, there is an element of economics involved. There's an element of ethics, morality, an element of science, and then there's element of language in advocacy. So all this, it comes in the combination, and and of course that is something you get out in the real world and experience, and you learn. And I guess now these days school, I think, are doing good in providing kids with that exposure. There's of course social media also. If one tries to utilize it in a right way, then I think there is exposure there also. Like for instance, now how we are conducting this like 45th podcast of this year, and I believe like you have hit upon different vertical, different domain, different discipline. So through that you are getting certain exposure. So I think that's what the level of exposure, the transparency in exposure, and the intensity of exposure that the real world offers. Yeah, school can only try.
That's amazing. So now you said when you were a child, you wanted to become a scientist, you wanted to study science, but you
Yeah.
had a PhD in mathematics.
Yes.
Why is that so? And
Okay.
if I may ask, I'm curious.
No, I think in your age, yeah, you're seeing the distinction. But once you grow up, right, like being scientist it's like mathematician is like being scientist in the mathematics domain. You can understand that. So it's sciences only. I'm not pivoted that that far from being a scientist. Uh, yeah, I think yeah. But the simple answer is after a certain point, I wanted to do physics only actually. So I wanted to go in the field of physics, but then I understood in order to get good at physics, you need to be good at math. And I came to math, but then I fell in love with math. Like I told, right, like passion. It just happened, and yeah, I felt like there is more to math than what I knew before, and then I just pursued with that. That's it, I guess. Yeah.
So is math easy for you when you started to analyze math and when you touch the subject for
Right. Hmm. No, that yeah, I think I'll have a bit of an intuitive answer, or like I don't know, unconventional answer to that. I never say math is easy. Even when I was studying, when I started during my study and after completing school, math is actually difficult because see, what is easy, what is difficult is works in a very relative frame of work, and the relative frame of work I'm using this how we interact day to day with the world that we see or the interaction. So in keeping that as a reference, that math is indeed a difficult, language to pick up on. So, but of course, if the world was in a different way, the way we interacted, the way we conversed, and if the mathematics was, approached as a language from the very beginning and not as a subject or later not as a tool, that assists physics or chemistry or whatever be it, but a language on its own, a domain on its own, then yeah, then math would be easy, trust me. But no, that's not done, especially in my time. Recently I was in a conference and I did say this, like kids these days have a very bigger advantage in understanding mathematics because they're very well equipped with language of English. Like when I was growing up, my mother tongue is Kannada. So, and I was, yeah, good with Kannada. And I was horrible with English. Like, not like horrible, but okay, not that good, let's say. Some jargon, some technical words was not that easy. So later, after a point in mathematics, like let's say we study in English. So, like having a hold on language has a correspondence with us getting a hold on the mathematics also, actually, because the literature matters. For instance, in Europe, there are certain countries where they study in their native language, like in Germany, they study in German, and so that gives a huge advantage for them. Or even in, I believe in China also, I think they might be doing in Chinese or in like other parts of Asia or in US, let's say, where English is their native language and they do study in English. So, and I've had students also from those countries, and I see that them having a hold on the language, the English language, gives them a hold on the subject also. So that is just one component, and like I'm telling, like there are multiple other components where if our day-to-day interaction were a little bit mathematical friendly, then I think mathematics, would be easy because then you would see it as a language. But now, see, for even for the younger kids for whom mathematics is easy, they see it as, like, okay, they might be quicker in calculation or adding up something or doing some calculation. But those fall into eventually in the department of accounts. So mathematics is something else differently. So I think if that was the case, then math would be easy. But no, like the world that we live in and everything, math is actually hard, but it need not be. It's just, you need to work on the framework. So, but working on the framework is what might be hard.
So when you said for the first point, math is not easy. No, teenagers would agree with the point where they are learning about trigonometry and many mathematics lessons. Yeah.
Mhm.
And they would be thinking, what is this real life education podcast or just the schools or colleges education which we are talking? Right now, let's move on to another question. What is, according to you, social activists? What actually mean to you?
So yeah, social activist is a very, very simple thing that I have in my mind, and this is something I used I think few months back also. Being an activist is very, like, the social activist. What that means is, I'll give you with an instance. Let's say, some case happens, like some form of human abuse happens. I don't know if I should have used asked this to you before whether I can use certain words, but okay, given this is a technical word, I'll go ahead and use it. Like, let's say there's a rape case that has happened, and people of course come up on social media and put stories or voice out or come out to the street, do marches, do protest, all this. Okay, but after a point, that dies down. The them voicing out dies down as they get back to their quote unquote normal life, and the issue kind of course, some stay, some go, but that's the idea of being an activist essentially. To not wait for some injustice to occur in the society and then act upon it, but rather understand that okay, this mindset is in the society. Like for the instance that I told, also we know very well, and even today also, if you take up the newspaper, there will be some case reported from today, like 31st December, 2025. So, so I think activists are those people essentially, who don't wait for okay, okay, something may occur or can occur, and let's speak up then. No, but being proactive about an issue, like year long. And of course, first they also take break. Even I also take break, but predominantly not waiting for any event to occur, but rather tackling the mindset. And the mindset is of very simple, that is being tackled, which is a mindset of dominion, oppression. Like one, like mights over rights. Just because one is mightier than the other, they can oppress others. And this has been a classical case in every case, like British oppressing Indians, men oppressing women, and let's say the quote unquote upper caste, oppressing quote unquote lower caste, or one religion oppressing the other, or the case that I am fighting, like humans oppressing, like human animals oppressing non-human animals. So in all this, the common denominator is the idea of dominion, the idea of oppression. Just because we can do it, you know, we do it anyway. But the question we need to ask is, should we do it just because we can? So this mindset, is there. The mindset of dominion, it is there in everyone's mind actually. So to tackle that is to be an activist.
Mm, right. So when you try out something new, sometimes you want to help people and you want to try out something new outside the world and it doesn't work. What do you do at that point in time?
Okay, it's a very arbitrary question. I don't know. Because yeah, it's a very general question. I don't know to what do I did it. To be honest, yeah, it depends on from case to case, from person to person, from issue to issue. Uh, but I think the general answer I can give is, yeah, of course, reflect on what I could have done better, because the onus is on me, as an activist to voice out, when I'm representing someone. The onus is on me to represent them in the right way, to represent them in the most respectful way, to represent them in a way that they would want to be represented, and eventually to represent them in a way to empathize and to emulate what suffering they're going through. So I would just reflect on that, and yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, of course, there have been cases where I've blamed someone like, "Oh my God, how why can't you understand this thing? Why can't you understand?" It? But I think in most of the cases, that is very insignificant. But in the significant number of cases, I reflect upon myself. Okay, how I could have done a better job in representing those who've been rendered voiceless.
Who influenced you the most during your childhood years?
Uh, I told it, my grandfather. I think that's a very clear-cut answer I have. Uh, it's very simple, He taught me. He never said these words or anything. He's someone, who who spoke through his actions, and I think whatever like he taught me a lot of things. But if I could encapsulate it in one statement, it would be like. There's no real substitute for hard work. That's all. That's what, the main thing I took away from him, and which I, try to remind myself almost every day.
Mm. What gap in education led you to start Math Katha?
Oh, what gap in education? I think, yeah, that's also a very simple answer. I think in the school, given the rush with the syllabus and the number of students that the teacher needs to cater to. So this being the two of the major contributors, the the teachers are not able to fulfill the criteria or do the justification for the syllabus that is there with some concepts in terms of understanding and create sparking curiosity and generating interest in the student's mind. So these are the major gap that I felt, and of course, the main thing what I told earlier, math to be represented in the right way. Uh, I feel there might be a gap there, and which I can make an attempt to fulfill from my perspective. So
Mm.
that's the idea.
Right. So, how did your work get published in a nature journal, and what did it teach you?
So that credit, I think, have to. That's not just on me. The credit goes to my supervisors, my institute, and for the fostering environment that yeah, the mentioned people and the institute provided. I think a lot went into that. So yeah, I think that is the main thing. And then what I learned from it, I don't think there was any such learning experience as such, but I felt, that yeah, hard work can pay off, and yeah, hard work can pay off. I guess that's about it mainly. That's I think that's something that I learned. So there's a lot of I think yeah, PhD is something like a grinding experience. You go in it's like a maze, and you keep going keep going in. And when you yeah, now that I've come out of it, so it's very difficult for me to yeah, articulate it per se. So in just few words I can tell what I told earlier. mm, but yeah, it definitely felt good to be published, to be part of nature portfolio. So yeah, but credit to my supervisors and institute, like you mentioned.
Amazing. So, you had uploaded a video where you spoke in Nama Metro about
mm,
dogs in
mm,
Delhi, where the Supreme Court said that all the dogs should be caged and should not be on the roads. And you spoke.
right,
Why did
right.
you take up that decision where the hundreds of people are in one bogie, I can say,
mm,
and you took up that confidence, stand up, saying that I have to do it? How did that uh, pop up, and why did you do that so?
Mhm. So why did I do it? I think, like I told, right, to voice out for them, I mean, to defend those who cannot defend themselves is how I would like to call. People often call animals as voiceless, but yeah, I personally and we activists, don't believe in that. And it's not just a belief system; it's actually true that they do have a voice. It's just that their voice has been, suppressed and oppressed by, yeah, you know by who. So the reason I spoke out is because of that, because they need someone to defend them. They need to be voiced out. And the reason of doing there, I felt, I think uh, yeah, there are a lot of people there. And I wanted to see their reaction also. So that is just one video that went out on Instagram, let's say. But we did multiple such 2, 3 versions of that, in the on that day and in different language also. So the one that you saw was in Kannada, I suppose. Then we did in English also because Bengaluru. Now also we are having in English one, the podcast, so to say. But like so to cater to those who do not understand Kannada, so it was again repeated in English and again in Kannada, and then there was a bit of interaction. So the idea is to get on ground. I mean, I wouldn't choose to say the word on ground per se also because on ground is someone who rescues and does all that. So this is not on ground also. I have massive respect for those rescued because I started from there. But anyway, so it's to circle back to this, like I told, right, to interact with the real world, how they would take it, and yeah, how it will be reciprocated, and to see their response, and to reach out, yeah, to do it is essentially an outreach. We do outreach in street outreach where we talk to people, but it's like one on one or like one on few maybe. But here, like you mentioned, there were a bunch of people there, and we knew that we could further leverage it on social media also, where it will reach many more, and which it luckily did. So that was the idea essentially. I think the decision that was given at that point, and again we have come back to that square one more or less. But back then, what the decision was given, I think, was really unfair in terms of well-being of the community dogs. So yeah, for those reasons, I voiced out in the moment.
And moving forward, and also you had uploaded a video where you saw a hen which was caged, and you said, no, why people remove that and
Mm,
cut it, and why it is scared of that. I didn't know it. I was like, oh wow, this is nice information. I got to know. When you put hand, it goes away from you.
mm, yeah.
It gets to know the mindset, what we are thinking, and what's the reason it is in the cage.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I think, see, essentially, it's like I told you, the mindset of dominion. And with that, right, with that, the consequence of that has been the concept of the idea of the speciesism also, where, we do discrimination. We have done those discriminations within humans also, based on, I forgot the skin color, element of skin color, as petty as someone's skin color. The history is evidence that we, as human race, we have, taken part in discrimination
Mm.
of someone being of different skin color, and we still do in some patches. But of course, we have come a long way, I believe, because in the West also, if we take America, them dragging native Africans, from their native land to American soil, and yeah, having their way with treating them as objects. Why? Because they belong to a different land, they had a different skin color, that's all. But so the same, the similar concept applies here also. Because I'll give you an instance. In Mumbai, few months back, a decision was passed where it was banned not to feed. I mean, it was told not to feed pigeons. A ban was imposed, on feeding pigeons. People came to the street, they revolted and told no, like feeding is our right, and they are also lives like us. They also get hungry, so we must feed, and this is not the solution. So people protested for the reason of pigeons not being fed. Okay. On the other hand, if you take the case of chicken, they treat these birds as feed, their own feed. So if you see that, the mindset, where one bird, we are fighting for one bird, where, you know, okay, it's their right, it's their rights to get the food, and it's our rights to feed. And I'm not getting on the scientific aspect of, them creating health hazard, because I think there is an element of truth to that also, where, overpopulation of pigeons has indeed caused like hazardous regards to health, and in terms of like migration of other birds. So of course we need to put a pin on it. But despite that, yes, these people fought for that. But on the other hand, treating another bird as food. So you see the, like the the mindset that we have. And now if we talk to people, but what people say, but no, but they are meant to be food, they're raised for food only. I can say the same for human class also. Oh no, these people were raised to be slaves. Or this gender, the person who was born in this gender was meant to stay at home and do the kitchen. But we have to ask ourselves, we are the ones, the ones who are oppressing are the ones who are imposing that label upon the other individuals.
Mm.
Right? Be it for a person of different skin color, or a different gender, or a different species.
Right.
But irrespective of all these labels, the fundamental traits of, feeling pain, wanting love, wanting freedom. Okay, love is far fetched, but like wanting freedom, and to have like your rights on your body. So that, every basically, the every individual has an interest in their life, be it human or non-human animal. As simple as that. So hence, what these labels we impose on them, it's not right, because it's an imposition, you know done by us, done by those who oppress, essentially. So that's the idea. And of course, they understand, they can, they're smart enough to know that, okay, if someone is putting a hand, why are they putting it? Because they see, they hear the scream, and in some cases they see the visual also, in front of them only, their either family member or friend, or someone, whom they know, acquainted to, is getting killed. So they know, okay, even their fate is the same. So naturally, when someone tries to, because they see, they see us as humans, right?
Yeah.
So how we see, people who kill the innocents. If we give in human clan also, for a certain group of people, who kill the innocents, the label that we give. For them, we are the same thing, essentially, where, yeah, when they have an interest in their life, but we are needlessly taking it from them. So yeah, that's sad.
So, if a person wants to become a social activist, what are the three skills needed?
Oh, okay. What are the three skills? See, one is, I think, the two on top of my mind is like honest and being courageous. So the honesty is very important, because you need to confront certain things within yourself also. uh, you need to understand for what you are fighting for, because in the west also this has happened, in multiple places it has happened, where people come show up for protest or whatever. And when they're asked, what are you fighting for, what are you exactly fighting for, they don't have an idea what they're fighting for. These instances have happened, actually, sadly. So, so that is first main thing, to be honest, like to be honest to what you're fighting for, and to be honest with yourself, and to align with those principles. And I believe, yeah, the alignment will be there within here, and it is just, implementing it in action. Because to many people, to go back to what I was telling earlier, to many people I ask, give a knife and a chicken to your hand, will you be able to stab the chicken, or slit the throat by yourself? They'll say, oh, no, 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 I cannot do it. Or even in the case of dairy also, the same thing I ask, the kind of how we subject these cows and buffaloes to, will you be able to subject it yourself, first hand? Then they'll say no. So that's what, the values are within there. So it is to be honest, in terms of what you're fighting for, the values and the action. So these three elements, that is first thing. The second is to, yeah, to be courageous, because to voice out, it's not always easy. Like for instance, if I give talk about social media, the amount of trolls, the amount of abusive comments, and and some of them are like just hateful, just like two hateful comments. I literally had an activist who called me yesterday morning, and the person was crying over the phone because of some comments that she they received, and then there was some friction at the home also regarding the same, and so it becomes very hurtful at times. Trust me, for me also, uh, it has been a little difficult there, to be honest, because some are very hurtful comments. But yet, again, if you are truly honest to your cause, you will put a blind spot to this, and will be able to move on. So I think, yeah, being courageous is the second skill. Uh, Third skill, I don't know. I think, yeah, if you ask about skill, like a soft skill, then communication,
Mm,
one can work on their communication. And I'm not saying, when I say communication, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not telling, okay, you have to speak fluent English or fluent language, anything. No, it is to find your voice, to represent. Because I have seen some of the speeches where, let's say, this person is supposed to give the speech in English only, but this person doesn't know English that well. But still, the words that they choose, reflects about their honesty, reflects about the value that they hold. So it's less to do with the fluency when I say communication, and more to do with, again, recognizing those values, and choosing certain words where you'll be able to strike a chord. So for that, fluency doesn't matter, but yeah, again, if you are true to the cause, if you are close to the cause, then yeah, that will assist you with finding those words. I think, yeah, these are probably the three skills that are on top of my mind. Yeah, but of course, I think there are many more. But yeah, these three are from my end.
I think so. If we have to revise it, honest and courageous and communication.
Yes, because communication is what bridges us. Like, because we are essentially trying to establish a bridge.
Mm,
So to establish that bridge, if I can say, I think these three come really handy.
yeah. So as you said that as an activist, you will get many comments where you have to not look upon it more. And people also have gotten this comments. How can they handle this?
See, first is, I think, to have this, we have a very rosy opinion, if I can say that, about a lot of things. Let's say about nature, about humans. I'm not telling people to be pessimistic about the world that we live in, but to have a reality check. There are misogynists, a lot of misogynists out there, a lot of homophobic people out there, a lot of people, with such, like, I don't know, like evil mindset only is what I can say, who are out there. So when you are putting yourself out there in social media, at least, you are gonna get some kind of resistance. But yeah, so be prepared for that. Is what I can mainly say. But apart from that, how can one prepare? I think some people, they get used to it. Like for me, for instance, before, some of the comments used to trigger, but then you get to know that, if again you are, like, the skill set, like what I spoke about, you're honest and courageous, and you power through those. A lot of positive comments also come in, and a lot of people, do say that, it has struck a chord in them, and then you understand that what you are doing essentially, yeah, the objective cannot possibly be that, okay, you're going to impact everyone in a positive way. There are going to be some people, who are going to come back at you, but at the end of the day, you have to outweigh, the people that it is impacting positively. You have to outweigh that to the other folks, because this has been the case in every other social justice movement. Even within my family, I remember, the resistance of some of the other form of oppression, like, women finding their voice. It was not that easy. I always give this very good example is of, like, Dangal. I mean, I don't know, good or bad, but at least somewhat of a relatable example. I don't know whether you watched the movie or not. So you have not watched. Okay, yeah. From your expression, I made out. But essentially, for for those who have watched it, even in that also, father wants their children, two girls, to get into, like, this wrestling arena. So kusti and fighting. So but there is so much of resistance, from the family also, and from village, that the girls, you are making them wear shorts, cutting their hair, and I mean, they're supposed to be like married in a few years or whatever in the timeline, and all this is like useless. You are just you're just destroying their life also. All this, like, yeah, all such like negative comments, and basically trying to uh, pull them down.
Right.
But of course, the movie goes, they get into this field arena, and they win medals, and they bring pride to themselves, the father, the family, the town, and even to the nation. So that time, people do come around.
Mm.
So, and in every social justice movement, this happens that after a certain point, the movement becomes alive on its own. Like, it becomes part of the social nexus.
Mm.
Again, to give an example, I believe, like, in the society we live in, there are a lot of misogynists, but they pretend not to be one, just in the fear of being called out. So I know that's not ideal. Ideally they shouldn't pretend. They shouldn't be one. They shouldn't be misogynist. Because anyway, for the obvious principle that it holds. But that's what. So unfortunately, that's an intermediate point of a social justice movement, and I'm sure we'll get to a point where, yeah, again, it's like the number of people with this misogynistic mindset will reduce.
Mm.
But that intermediate point is there where the social justice movement becomes alive, and becomes a living entity in the society. And yeah, till that, we need fighters. So keep fighting and focus on what you're fighting for, who you're fighting for, the cause. Again, be honest, be courageous, and yeah, try to communicate in a way that yeah, if they come back at you, it's okay. Let them keep coming, but you focus on the cause. I'm sure that will create the positive impact that it should in the real world.
Amazing. So, why is animal rights an important responsibility for educators and youth?
Sorry, can you repeat that? Where or what did you ask? Like, what's the initial part?
Animal rights an
Yeah,
important responsibility.
yeah, of course. See, it's very simple. I mean, I think in the podcast, I thought we'll start with this question, but okay, you had a lot of other questions planned. It's all right. See, it's very simple. Like, whatever rights we fought for, or have been fighting for in the other justice movement, like I told, right, like racism, or any kind of other abuse.
Mm.
Why did we fight? Because we understood you and I may be two different individuals. You and I may be of two different genders. You and I may have two different skin colors. You and I may belong to some, again, quote unquote, caste because of our parents or whatever. You and I may be of different religion, but all these differences are there, of course. But what is common in us is our ability to feel pain, our ability to suffer, our ability to feel joy, our ability to, wanting and needing for freedom, to be free. Right now, we live in a society where we say, I mean, rightfully so, we say we're imposing a career on your kids, like you have to be a doctor, you have to be an engineer, itself is wrong. Okay. So then, if subjecting someone to be an object, like objectification of them in any manner, how is that right? Because of the commonality that I mentioned. But now, in this commonality, right, we got to include non-human animals, because you tell me, is don't they have those traits? They do have those traits. They do want to be free. They can feel joy. They can feel pain. They can suffer. The reason why we are oppressing them is because, yeah, like how other oppression movement has occurred, because mights overrides. So once we recognize, okay, those traits are there in them also, it's rightful duty of us to extend those human rights to non-human animals as well. And I'm not saying, education to, I mean, sorry, rights to education or rights to, let's say, anything else, but fundamental rights to live their life freely and uh, and not in the clutches of humans. And when I say clutches, I mean like quote unquote clutches of humans. So in in that essence, I feel it is very very relevant and very very important for us to bring animal rights as part of our education system and to take it further, because ultimately we ask this question, what is true of a non-human animal if were to be of true to a human would make it okay to use objectify humans. What is that trait? There is nothing,
Right.
because we belong to a sentient family essentially.
Mm,
And the sentient family gives us this ability to experience the world and to again fortunately or unfortunately develop an interest in our life and to safeguard it. And in that bracket, non-human animals also come.
mm. So, what does success truly mean to you today?
Success means nothing. That's all. I think it's a pursuit. I think the world that we are living in, right? It's just a pursuit of taking up different tasks and trying to tackle them. That's all. If yeah, there is nothing. I for me at least, at least in today's world, and now that the year is coming to an end today, so success is success. Liberation is success, but I'm not sure. It's going to take a while, and liberation not just for like non-human animals, but for human animals also. So once we have liberated ourselves and others from every form of oppression, only then only then we are truly liberated, and only then we are truly successful. But till then, yeah, it's just how do you say, agnipat.
Right. Can you share one animal rescue or experience that deeply impacted you?
Yeah, okay, in rescues I think there are many. I think one deeply impacted me. Like I said, there are many, but I think in terms of species, if I go, like it was in the initial only, because after a point every rescue this happens, there's some kind of I don't know, immunity that we develop to the horrors that we see, let's say. I think it was in the initial days only when I rescued a puppy and tried to take tried to take the puppy to the vet, but on the way the puppy passed away. Then I still remember, I think in one of the under the metro in near JP Nagar somewhere, we dug deep and buried the puppy there. And yeah, I think that had its impact, because it was in this Urvashi road, that Minerva Circle, where we were going and near the passport office. So there the puppy was lying and people were there, but people were not doing anything. And me and my friend were going in a two-wheeler and we crossed the puppy. We were also in a rush actually. I still remember, I think August 5th it was. The year is fuzzy. Not fuzzy, I can recall, I think 2016. So we crossed it and we were in a rush and we felt like okay, we couldn't do anything, but then no, I turned around the vehicle and came on the wrong way. Yeah, uncivil, but at that moment, because it was a rescue operation. So, but we didn't drive that long also, but yeah, few meters. We had just crossed few meters, came back, and then took the puppy and tried to take the puppy to vet. And yeah, like I said, yeah, the puppy couldn't make it. And there have been many such instances where it's been like more of a failure than of a success. And I think more than it being successful, sometimes failure is what like allows you to like just keep going and at least try your best in providing a second chance. But sadly, yeah, something that I regret of this year is I've been little less active in the rescue space this year. I've coordinated a few rescues and taken part in a couple, but yeah, I have drastically reduced from the previous years, so to say. But I think yeah, that is one of the impactful rescues, I believe.
So, what habits can teenagers change to become more humane?
Listen to your elders. First thing. listen to your parents. You may think that okay, they don't know what they're talking about. There's this generation gap. Of course, that is there. That is always there, and especially in this generation where the generation gap is like kind of squeezing. So the generation gap is always there. So they may not be right about everything that they say, but there are certain things that you may think that they're wrong, but they would be right. So it's on you to develop that wisdom. I know wisdom, teenagers doesn't go hand in hand, the two words, but uh, still I feel like now kids grow up early. They become mature. I don't know how to define mature in this context, but still, like the way they can access information, assimilate it, dissect it, understand. It's much quicker, I feel personally. And yeah, I think in that they do have that faculty to understand what the parents are saying. But of course, sometimes they see the source. Okay, oh, the source is them. The source are parents or grandparents or someone who is elder to them, and just because of that source, right, they discard the information. Like let's say, however, politics also in our India, how some to some degree, how politics works. Just because of the source, we may discard the idea or the manifesto. Who people having their own alliances with their political parties, let's say. So here also, I feel teenagers have some kind of like them being judgmental, if I can put one word to it. So sometimes they can be a little bit judgmental, and rightfully so, because parents are also sometimes judgmental of what their kids do. But yeah, the youngsters, the teenagers specifically, cannot discredit the experience of what one holds. So recently, in my experience, also I met someone in this conference who is, I think, whose age is 47, who's significantly elder to me, and who's been in this space, like what my startup is about. So he's been in this space for a long time. So in some of the departments, their information might be outdated, let's say, but still, the experience that they've had, some of the failures that they may have tasted, and how that has led to success. So those experience, cannot be discredited. So that is the only thing that I would like to say to teenagers, that yes, sometimes the source can be annoying, the sometimes the source can be nagging, but try to take in that information that's coming through. Don't judge it based on source. Try to take the information, try to sit with it, try to develop a little more patience, and to humane what you told, very simple. Empathy is the way to go forward for anything and everything. Because I think the sense of community was there before a lot, because people lived in that structure actually. But now, like it's not just the apartments what you see, the physically what you see, the mentality has also become that way. People want to have their segregated life, or even the community also they have is like some bunch of people where it becomes an echo chamber, and ideas bounce off of each other, and they just become stronger and stronger in the existing viewpoint. So, but for empathy, you got to get out to the real world, interact with people of different communities, and we need to come together. And but coming together is a consequence. Okay, people always think that's the cause, but that's a consequence. The causation element is empathy. So be a little bit more patient, be a little bit more empathetic, and then we can come together and and solve a problem. And I think one thing what I would mainly say is, yeah, don't think okay, what is your dream, but rather try to ask yourself what problem you want to solve when you grow up.
Right.
So people often ask, elders also ask. That is something to elders that I would say, which I've been telling now. So never ask or toddler, not a toddler, of course, but once they come to a certain age, a teenager, and as they grow up, never ask them like what is your dream, but rather ask them what problem you want to solve when you grow up. So because with that, you know, yeah, because dreams sometimes can be very dreamy also, and the source of inspiration also, can be, yeah, you never know. Because I remember once I had gone to this school for outreach program, young kids. Everyone is telling like I want to become police. But then ask them what's the source of inspiration. They're telling this like movies and those things, which is fine. It's okay to have, but still, they should understand okay, what are the roles and responsibilities of a police, and what it is to be a police, and what problem they want to solve. When they become police, And that, if that is a source of inspiration to being a police, rather than, okay, this person was police and hence I also want to become police. But you never know. So rather, so that's why they say, right, like never follow a person, but follow the ideas.
Right.
I think that's what. So in stay, in telling yourself or in asking yourself, or if someone asked you like, what problem you want to solve, I think the idea sediments in a young human mind, and I think with that, as they grow up, they will go a long way. I'm sure.
Right. So, one message for teens who feel too small to create impact.
Oh no, yeah, don't. First of all, because see, forget teen. Even I also feel at times, because like I told, right, the world that we live in, it's so unfair on so many levels to so many human and non-human animal that you can easily feel that it's that you're small. That being said, what you got to tell yourself is, see, you have this window of how many years, how many Everests that you live. Okay, you have this window. So in that window, what can you do to make the corner of the world that you want to make better better? So just take that as a starting step. Okay, it can be, let's say, feeding community dogs, as simple as that, or rescuing some animal, or speaking up for any social justice movement for that matter. So you just start with that, and you see the response that you may get, and then trust me, that will carry you, that will carry you, uh, because I think fighting for a cause is something like, you start off with thinking that okay, you have chosen to fight for this cause, but as you get deep and deep into it, somewhere you feel little humbled, and to think that okay, probably the cause chose you to be one of its fighters. So, and at that point you get a sense of community. That is something else that that will give you immense strength, because for me also personally, and as an activist, like the sense of community, like a few of my fellow activists, like are my family members actually. So because we have set aside a lot of things in our lives, and have dedicated our life for this cause, and through that we have developed a sense of community, a sense of family members. Yeah, that is somewhere that's everything.
Amazing. Beautiful. So, now, when we come to the last part of this episode, that will be rapid fire questions, one round. So, are you
Okay.
excited for this round, sir?
No, no, I'm terrified because see, I'll tell you about my personality. I am someone, even when I play chess also, I'm decent. I'm good at chess. So, but I play very slow. I can never play that bullet chess, because when I play that bullet chess, I fail. Even in math also. Okay, forget chess. Chess is okay. Let's say a skill that I picked up on. But in math, I have I've been for so long. In math also, I take more time than other person to understand, to evaluate, and then do the analysis and give an answer. So in life also, I'm the similar way. I'm not someone, okay, I'm a person who will answer on my feet. Of course, in few scenarios, the demand is there for that. So I need to cater to it, which I will do now also. But I'm giving you a disclaimer that I'm not excited. I'm terrified a little bit, but please go on.
No problem. So, it should be a mindset of a person where we should analyze it, we should take it, and
Hmm.
then not just tell it out whatever we get
Right,
it
right,
in mind. Yeah.
right, right. Yeah, please
Um,
go ahead.
so, one word to describe your childhood.
See again, I told right. Sorry, I'll just one question. One word to describe my childhood is, I think, pursuit.
Maths or compassion? Which comes first?
Oh no, you cannot ask such questions, man. I think, but compassion comes first.
First animal you felt deeply connected to.
Cows.
One habit that changed your life.
One habit that changed my life. I think it's like to recognize discipline and be disciplined about that particular discipline.
Activism is a choice or a responsibility?
Responsibility.
One myth about animal activists.
That one myth about animal activists. Okay, that we are crazy.
Uh, Hardest part of being an activist.
Again, people, put us as out of the bracket, like we are not quote unquote normal, or we are crazy. I think, yeah, like not being inclusive essentially. And that is sometimes that is hard, and at the same time, I think sometimes like speaking up, yeah, for the oppressed. Yeah, when the conversion, like how much of effort you're putting in, how much it's get converted, sometimes can be a bit of a bullet to bite on.
Mm. One small action that creates big impact.
One small action that creates big impact. Voice.
Mm. Fear or courage? What drives change?
Courage.
Wow, amazing. Thank you so much, sir. This was just amazing, amazing thoughts and the opinions that you shared and the work that you're doing, sharing uh, amazing knowledge that people know it, but it's not in our conscious mind. Yeah.
Mm.
So thank you so much for sharing that. So what is your last message for me and the audience?
Yeah, large matches, I think, would be just like I told it, empathy is the way to go forward. So, be it with human or non human animals. So, to stop discriminating non human animals. Okay. See, no two individuals are equal, but yet, that shouldn't stop us from, providing them equal moral consideration.
Right,
Let's say, to my mother, I may not treat my mother and some person, let's say in some other continent, some other woman, the same way. But yet, to both of them, I don't have the rights to, violate any of their rights. So that bare minimum respect that, that we owe to other fellow beings, please, act upon that. So,
right,
provide every individual, every sentient individual with a bare respect, the bare minimum respect that you can give, which is not to do anything with them. Later you can do, if you want to care, rescue, all that is optional, I would say. So helping is optional, but choosing, but making that choice, not to objectify someone is a mandatory, which includes both human and non-human animals. So that's the main message that I want to give. And also I would like to thank you and your audience for giving me this opportunity. And I'm not sure whether I can disclose your age here, but given your age, what you have taken up, interacting with people on different subjects, different domain, uh, it's really interesting because this is one way to explore the real world, like I told, in having dialogue. So I felt like this was a very constructive dialogue with you, and I'm sure that you will have a bright future. And with that, I wish that what I told, the final thing, the voice. I
mm,
believe that you will use your voice to the fullest in providing justice to, yeah, to many sentient lives that you can.
yeah. Thank you so much, sir, for your kind words. I will use my voice at my best possible way to create an impact and to serve people the best way that I could. Right? So thank you so much, audience. Thank you so much, sir, for all the knowledge that you have shared in this podcast. That was just mind blowing. I loved it. So, audience, if you have loved, I know you would have loved this podcast, but go ahead in the comment box and type your feedback so that we can share it with sir and we can celebrate together. Right? So, with this note, thank you so much, and let's meet in the next episode. Till then, take care and goodbye.
Thanks.